Welcome to Beyond the Stars. Welcome, dreamers, travelers, and lovers of the unknown. You've just entered Beyond the Stars, a place where science fiction meets soul and where stories are sung across galaxies. Here we don't just tell tales, we echo them across memory, melody, and the deepest corners of space. Whether you're here for star-crossed love, ancient alien choirs, or the soft hum of forgotten technology, you're in the right place. So buckle up, because every journey begins with a single note, and we're about to sing it together. Chapter 1, The Drift and the Voice. The void was quiet, not silent. There was no such thing in space, but quiet in a way that pressed against the hull like the weight of a long-forgotten memory. The stars outside blinked in a haze of violet dust, distant and disinterested. And in the center of that apathy drifted a ship named the Harlequin's Mercy, her hull weathered by decades of scavenger runs and forgotten deals. Inside, Rafe adjusted the gain on the frequency scanner and leaned closer to the receiver. A whisper came through, barely audible, but unmistakable. A voice, female, fragmented, singing. He froze. Return to me. I remember. He turned a dial, isolated the band, and pressed record. The waveform danced erratically, as if fighting to be heard through layers of time and interference. This isn't random, he muttered. He didn't believe in ghosts, not anymore. But the coordinates embedded in the signal led to only one place, the Void Choir, a half-forgotten legend, a drifting structure abandoned by any known race, immune to scans, and long believed to be the tomb of a civilization that sang its final message into the stars. He set course. Lumi was already on approach. Her ship, the Tessellate, had picked up the same harmonic disturbance 3 days earlier. Though to her, it wasn't just a voice, it was her mother's voice. Buried under data packets from an old scientific probe, the resonance pattern matched one Lumi had heard only once, when she was 5, clutching a recorder while her mother sang lullabies to measure sonic feedback. Her mother disappeared during an experimental test 5 years later. And now that same voice was calling from the edge of nothing. Lumi's fingers trembled as she guided her ship into the anomaly's shadow. The structure appeared slowly, unrolling like a cathedral in eclipse, massive rings of obsidian metal rotating around a central orb, humming with tones too low to hear. The Void Choir. Final approach, she whispered. And if you're in there, I'm coming. The two ships arrived on opposite vectors. Rafe docked at a protruding node marked with strange harmonic glyphs. Lumi aligned with what resembled a docking vine, an organic tendril fused with synthetic plating. Neither knew the other was there, until the choir sang. A tone, pure and resonant, vibrated through both vessels. Systems flickered, lights dimmed, and deep within their neural implants, a pressure formed, not painful but insistent, as if something was listening back. Rafe grabbed his rifle and exited first, stepping into a corridor that felt like the inside of a living organ, with walls that pulsed faintly with breathless rhythm. He moved cautiously, visor scanning. 2 corridors over, Lumi did the same, eyes wide, heart hammering. They rounded opposite corners and collided. Both raised weapons. "Stop," Lumi barked. "Who the hell are you?" Rafe growled. "Dr. Lumi Arendt. I'm here under private scientific license. Who are you?" He paused. Cole. Rafe Cole, freelance salvager. They stared at each other for a long moment. Then the structure hummed again, this time more distinct. A voice rising in harmony. "Don't forget. Don't leave me here." Lumi gasped. Rafe's eyes widened. Same voice. Same song. And suddenly they knew. Whatever this place was, it hadn't been silent in a very long time. It had been waiting. Something shifted. Lights flickered around them in a slow pulse, like a breath being drawn through the walls. The metallic floor beneath their feet thrummed with subsonic vibration. Rafe took a step back, weapon half lowered, his instincts torn between survival and wonder. Lumi reached into her jacket and pulled out a compact harmonic scanner. The device pulsed in rhythm with the vibrations. Her brow furrowed. "The waveform is reacting to us, as if the choir is adapting its frequency." "Or testing it," Rafe said. A distant chime echoed through the corridor. delicate, almost mournful. And then came the whisper again, this time stronger, layered with dissonant undertones. Help me. Stay. Sing with me. A panel in the wall slid open without a sound, revealing a hallway bathed in blue light. Air stirred, warm, recycled, and yet not artificial. Lumi looked at Rafe. It wants us to follow. Yeah, Rafe said, voice tight. That's what I'm afraid of. And still they move forward, together. Chapter 2. Harmonic Decay. The corridor narrowed as they walked, and the blue light shifted with their movement, dimming when they paused, brightening as they advanced. It wasn't illumination in the traditional sense. It was more like a glow born of resonance, the air vibrating at a frequency just beyond the edge of hearing. Rafe's boots echoed softly with each step, but Lumi's barely made a sound. Her breath was steady now, but her fingers never left the scanner's interface, mapping the frequency shifts with nervous precision. This place isn't metal, she said suddenly. At least not completely. Rafe glanced at the walls, now visibly veined with threads of translucent material that pulsed in sync with the ambient hum. You saying it's alive? I'm saying it's resonant. It's built to respond to sound, emotion even. The material might be some form of biosynthetic lattice, something that listens. Great, Rafe muttered. Haunted architecture. The hallway opened into a vast chamber, dome-shaped and layered with concentric rings of metal and crystal. A central platform hovered slightly off the floor, and across the walls, etched into every surface, were thousands of glyphs, not carved, sung. You could hear their tones if you stood close enough. Lumi stepped toward the platform. This is a harmonic nexus, a hub. The choir's core memory is stored here. You sound sure. I'm not. That's what terrifies me. Rafe knelt near the edge, examining a section of floor where the resonance was strongest. His visor picked up faint temperature differences, cool in the center, warmer at the edges. Like it's waiting to be activated. As if on cue, the room responded. A single tone rang out, long and low, vibrating through their chests. The glyphs shimmered faintly, their edges glowing like embers. Then, from the center of the platform, a holographic projection erupted. It wasn't a person, it was a song, a construct of shifting light and sound, notes taking shape as curves and spirals, harmonies mapped into physical space. It pulsed with sorrow, with hope, with desperation. And within the layered harmony, Lumi recognized it again. Her mother's voice. Not words, just fragments. A lullaby. A cry for help. She stumbled back. Rafe caught her. You okay? She nodded slowly. It's her. My mother. This projection, it's built from her voice print. You said she disappeared during an experiment? She was testing harmonic field integration. Thought consciousness could be encoded through voice resonance. Everyone said she died when the system collapsed. But what if she didn't? The song built again, brighter now. Glyphs lit across the room in patterns that spiraled outward. One of them cracked with a sudden burst of sound, like glass shattering across frequencies. A deep hum followed, dissonant and angry. Lumi's scanner flared red. Dissonance, she shouted. Something's wrong. From the shadows at the edge of the chamber, the air thickened, waves of sound folding in on themselves, creating distortions in light and space. Silhouettes flickered, distorted humanoid forms, flickering with static and impossible geometry. They're echoes, Lumi said breathlessly, failed harmonics, memories that decayed. Rafe raised his weapon. And they're heading straight for us. As the first echo lunged, the chamber erupted into chaotic sound. The choir was no longer just singing, it was screaming. Chapter 2. Harmonic decay. The corridor narrowed as they walked, and the blue light shifted with their movement, dimming when they paused, brightening as they advanced. It wasn't illumination in the traditional sense. It was more like a glow born of resonance, the air vibrating at a frequency just beyond the edge of hearing. Rafe's boots echoed softly with each step, but Lumi's barely made a sound. Her breath was steady now, but her fingers never left the scanner's interface, mapping the frequency shifts with nervous precision. This place isn't metal, she said suddenly, at least not completely. Rafe glanced at the walls, now visibly veined with threads of translucent material that pulsed in sync with the ambient hum. You saying it's alive? I'm saying it's resonant. It's built to respond to sound, emotion even. The material might be some form of biosynthetic lattice, something that listens. Great, Rafe muttered. Haunted architecture. The hallway opened into a vast chamber, dome-shaped and layered with concentric rings of metal and crystal. A central platform hovered slightly off the floor, and across the walls, etched into every surface, were thousands of glyphs. Not carved, sung. You could hear their tones if you stood close enough. Lumi stepped toward the platform. This is a harmonic nexus, a hub. The choir's core memory is stored here. You sound sure. I'm not. That's what terrifies me. Rafe knelt near the edge, examining a section of floor where the resonance was strongest. His visor picked up faint temperature differences, cool in the center, warmer at the edges, like it's waiting to be activated. As if on cue, the room responded. A single tone rang out, long and low, vibrating through their chests. The glyphs shimmered faintly, their edges glowing like embers. Then, from the center of the platform, a holographic projection erupted. It wasn't a person, it was a song, a construct of shifting light and sound, notes taking shape as curves and spirals, harmonies mapped into physical space. It pulsed with sorrow, with hope, with desperation. And within the layered harmony, Lumi recognized it again. Her mother's voice. Not words, just fragments. A lullaby. A cry for help. She stumbled back. Rafe caught her. You okay? She nodded slowly. It's her, my mother. This projection, it's built from her voice print. You said she disappeared during an experiment? She was testing harmonic field integration. Thought consciousness could be encoded through voice resonance. Everyone said she died when the system collapsed. But what if she didn't? The song built again, brighter now. Glyphs lit across the room in patterns that spiraled outward. One of them cracked with a sudden burst of sound, like glass shattering across frequencies. A deep hum followed, dissonant and angry. Lumi's scanner flared red. Dissonance, she shouted. Something's wrong. From the shadows at the edge of the chamber, the air thickened, waves of sound folding in on themselves, creating distortions in light and space. Silhouettes flickered, distorted humanoid forms, flickering with static and impossible geometry. They're echoes, Lumi said breathlessly. Failed harmonics, memories that decayed. Rafe raised his weapon, and they're heading straight for us. The first echo moved like a skipping recording, jerky, fragmented. Its limbs were stretched in unnatural ways, pulsing with static. Rafe fired a pulse round into its chest, but the bolt dispersed as if absorbed into empty sound. They don't have mass, Lumi called, but they resonate. Try adjusting your rifle to ultrasonic. Rafe toggled a setting. His next shot struck true, bursting the echo into a swarm of noise that disintegrated like a scream cut off mid-breath. More came, 6, 10, a dozen now, climbing the walls, crawling from between the glyphs, each of them humming with broken tones that clashed with the choir's central harmony. Lumi backed toward the platform, waving her scanner like a torch. They're trying to overwrite the core melody. If they succeed, this entire place could collapse into feedback. Tell me how to stop it, Rafe shouted, slamming another echo back with the butt of his rifle. Lumi's eyes scanned the chamber desperately. We need to reset the harmony, recenter the tonal frequency, a counterpoint, something pure. Like a song? Lumi met his eyes. Yes, but not just any voice. It has to come from someone who can match the choir's resonance. Rafe hesitated, then slowly he lowered his weapon. What are you doing? He stepped onto the platform. Something I haven't done in a long time. He closed his eyes, and he sang. His voice was rough at first, scarred by years of silence, but the melody emerged, low, mournful, and rich. The choir heard him. The glyphs slowed their flickering. The echoes paused mid-lunge, twitching. Lumi turned the scanner toward the central node. Readings normalized. Keep going, she whispered. Rafe opened his throat, and his voice deepened, filling the chamber with a vibration so steady it wove into the very structure. The echoes shrieked, but not in rage, in release. One by one they dissolved into light. When the last note faded, silence returned, not empty, whole. Rafe stood motionless on the platform, breathing hard. Lumi stepped beside him. You didn't tell me you could sing. I didn't want to, he said softly. Lumi nodded. The choir knows you now, and it remembers. Above them the ceiling opened, just a slit, and from beyond a tone rang out. Not warning, not grief, an invitation. They looked at each other and stepped through. Chapter 3, the choir remembers. The new corridor wasn't made of the same metallic veined lattice as before. It felt older, darker. Where the first chamber had pulsed with warm resonance, this one was subdued, holding its breath. The walls were matte obsidian, etched with faint, glowing scores. Lines of ancient notation, not meant for the eye, but for the ear. Lumi ran her fingertips across the carvings. They vibrated beneath her touch. These are scores, she murmured. Sheet music. But the notation? It's multidimensional. Rafe raised an eyebrow. As in, they're designed to be heard and felt, maybe even lived. This whole place is a living memory. The corridor led to an archway that shimmered with soft harmonics. Beyond it lay a smaller chamber, circular and enclosed, like a recording booth on a cosmic scale. In its center floated a prism of light, fragile, suspended midair, rotating slowly. Lumi stepped forward, her breath catching. That's a mnemonic crystal, prosonar tech, extremely rare. They use them to store pure memory encoded as sound. She took a cautious step closer. The crystal reacted, releasing a burst of layered tones, soft, ethereal, layered like a symphony. The walls responded by projecting flickers of light and shadow. Not just images, but echoes of presence. Suddenly, the room was filled with people. Not solid, not real, but unmistakably there. Scientists in flowing uniforms. Children laughing. A woman with silver hair standing before a console, speaking in a language made of song. That's her, Lumi breathed. My mother. Rafe watched as Lumi reached out toward the projection, but her hand passed through. The vision wavered. She's encoded here, Lumi said. Her memories. Her voice, maybe even more. Rafe circled the room slowly, eyes wary. But why was it triggered by us? Because we matched the frequency, my genetic resonance. Your voice, or Babo. A low chime echoed through the chamber. The crystal began to spin faster, and with it came new sound, discordant, warped. The projections flickered, faces distorting. One by one, the echoes twisted, familiar turned grotesque. Rafe stepped forward, rifle raised. Something's hijacking the memory stream. Lumi's scanner flared. It's an old security protocol. The choir is defending itself. From us. Suddenly the walls convulsed, and the mnemonic crystal exploded in a flare of white light. The floor fell away. They plunged. When the world reassembled, they were no longer in the same place. The chamber was gone, replaced by a swirling field of sound and starlight. Rafe floated, disoriented, his limbs heavy but untethered. Lumi drifted nearby, spinning slowly, suspended in what looked like a sea of vibrating light. Where are we? Rafe called out. Lumi blinked. Inside the choir's core memory. The space around them coalesced, notes becoming platforms, rhythms turning into structure. They stood now on a glowing plain, surrounded by looping echoes of moments past. A battlefield, a lullaby, a voice crying out. And then, silence, pure and absolute. From the silence rose a single figure, not Lumi's mother, but a towering shape made entirely of harmonic fragments. A guardian echo. It turned toward them, face expressionless, its form rippling with distorted chords. Rafe stepped forward. We're not here to hurt anything. The guardian lifted an arm. A pulse of sound erupted. Rafe dropped to one knee, head ringing. Lumi shouted something, but the wave drowned her out. Her voice vanished midair, disassembled into flickers. She closed her eyes and sang. Not to the guardian, but to the choir. To the memory of her mother. To the lullaby encoded in her bones. The air shifted. The guardian paused. Rafe looked up, eyes wide. The fragments making up the figure began to pulse differently, less like an attack, more like curiosity. Lumi held the note, her voice unwavering, delicate but firm. The guardian lowered its arm. Silence. Then softly it echoed the same note back. Rafe let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. You just sang down a memory monster. Lumi smiled faintly. I think it remembered her. The guardian stepped aside. Behind it, a bridge of sound unfolded into the starlit space, each step humming with resonance. Beyond it, a door made of pure tone pulsing with potential. Rafe glanced at Lumi. Shall we? Lumi reached for his hand. Let's go find the truth. Together they stepped forward into the next layer of the choir's long-forgotten song. Chapter 4, Beneath the Silence. The bridge of sound pulsed beneath their feet with every step, as if sensing and reinforcing their resolve. Each note hummed through their boots, a heartbeat stitched into music, guiding them forward. The air shimmered around them, light and sound blending into an aurora that danced across the infinite space. At the end of the bridge, the doorway awaited. It wasn't a structure in any physical sense, but rather a curtain of vibration, layered tones hovering in midair, woven together like a tapestry of pure resonance. When Rafe reached toward it, the frequencies shifted, forming a subtle harmony around the shape of his hand. It's attuning, Lumi said. It's recognizing you. Should I be flattered or worried? Yes, she replied with a dry smile. They stepped through together. On the other side was a chamber unlike anything they had yet seen, immense, cathedral-like, yet with no clear walls or ceiling. Every surface curved inward and outward, folding space in impossible geometries. In the center of the space hovered a massive orb, composed not of metal or glass, but of interlocking rings of sound suspended in a luminous shell. The choir's core. The moment they entered, the air tightened with density. Not gravity, emotion. Layered memories like overlapping chords in a symphony. Sadness, longing, hope, loss. Lumi swayed on her feet. It's too much. I can feel them. Everyone who ever left a part of themselves here. Rafe steadied her. Then let's make sure it wasn't in vain. As they approached the orb, harmonic pulses rippled outward like sonar. The closer they got, the more intense the resonance became. Rafe's skull buzzed, his ears ringing, yet it wasn't painful. It was familiar. Like a song he hadn't heard in years but somehow still knew by heart. A pedestal rose from the floor before them, materializing from strands of sound woven into solid form. Lumi stepped forward and placed her scanner upon it. The choir reacted instantly. A new projection burst into the air, this time not of people, but of events. Planets falling silent, ships drifting in starlight, ancient scientists singing together as they calibrated instruments made of glass and breath. The prosonar, their legacy written not in stone but in song. Lumi turned to Rafe, eyes wide. This was a gateway. The choir wasn't just a memory archive, it was a portal. They were trying to reach beyond this galaxy, beyond this reality. To who? Rafe asked. She hesitated. Maybe to something older, or to themselves in another form. Suddenly the orb flared with red light. A burst of static rang out, harsh and grating. The projection shattered. A warning tone followed, low, urgent. Security override, Lumi muttered. Something's trying to purge the system. The floor vibrated violently. Echoes began to form again, crawling from the walls, faster, more jagged than before. These were not memories. They were fragments of corrupted resonance, weaponized. Rafe drew his weapon. No more lullabies. We need to fight. Lumi nodded, activating a harmonic shield around the pedestal. I'll hold the link open. Buy me time. The echoes attacked in waves. Rafe moved through them like a storm, switching to pulse dampeners and sonic burst rounds. Each shot scattered the attackers into splinters of feedback, but more kept forming. Almost there, Lumi called. Her fingers flew across her scanner. I'm stabilizing the interface, redirecting resonance to a secure partition. An echo leapt past Rafe, shrieking. Lumi turned just in time, raising her arm as the thing collided with her shield. The harmonic barrier pulsed, distorting, but held. I can't keep this open forever. You don't have to, Rafe shouted back. Just long enough. With a final burst, Lumi locked the choir's core into a protected loop. The orb pulsed blue. The vibrations quieted. The echoes froze, then disintegrated like mist caught in sunlight. Silence returned. This time it was peaceful. Lumi collapsed to her knees, breath ragged. Rafe was at her side in seconds, helping her upright. You did it, he said, voice soft with awe. No, she said, smiling faintly. We did. The orb shifted. A single tone rang out, clear, crystalline. The walls unfolded, revealing a corridor they hadn't seen before. A final path. Rafe glanced down it, ready to see what the choir was hiding. Lumi stood, nodding. Let's finish what they started. Together, they stepped into the light. Chapter 5. The Disharmonic Storm. The new corridor wasn't like the others. It hummed with barely restrained tension. Discordant pulses rippled along the walls like distant thunder trapped beneath the surface. The air felt thick, charged with static and anticipation, as though the choir itself was bracing for something. Rafe slowed his pace, eyes scanning the curved surfaces. I don't like this. It's too quiet. Lumi, still catching her breath, adjusted the harmonic regulator on her forearm. The choir's resonance is destabilizing. I think we're entering the chamber where the external signal interference is coming from. Someone is trying to hijack the entire system. As they moved deeper, the passage widened into an observation hall filled with shattered harmonic pillars. Once elegant resonance towers lay broken and scorched, as if an explosion of sound had ruptured them from within. The chamber's center contained an array of instruments, each floating midair, suspended in perfect harmonic equilibrium despite the destruction. And standing in the center of it all was a figure, clad in scorched crimson armor lined with the synthetic vocal nodes. The figure turned as they entered. His face was obscured by a resonant mask that pulsed with every breath, and his presence carried a dissonance so intense it made the air vibrate in protest. You're too late, the figure said. His voice came in two layers, one organic, one metallic. The choir is no longer a monument. It is a weapon, and I am its new conductor. Rafe raised his weapon. Name yourself. The man tilted his head. I was once called Soren Dine, a harmonic engineer, like your mother, Dr. Arendt. But I went further. I didn't just want to hear the choir. I wanted to control it. Lumi's blood ran cold. You caused the purge. You're the reason my mother's consciousness was trapped here. Soren chuckled, and the air around him flickered. She was the first to understand the power hidden in memory. But she was weak, afraid of what harmony could become if bent to purpose. I was not. The floating instruments began to resonate, slowly at first, then rising in pitch. The floor vibrated and the walls flickered with failed projections, ghosts of voices trying to sing, only to be drowned in noise. Soren spread his arms. Now I wield the entire resonance field. The choir will become the first of many. With it, I will rewrite cognition itself. No more conflict, because everyone will think in tune with me. Rafe fired. The pulse shot struck a resonant barrier midair and disintegrated into shimmering tones. Soren raised one hand, and a burst of harmonic distortion slammed Rafe backwards into a column. Lumi rushed to his side, shielding him from the next wave with her regulator. I can counter him, she gasped. But I need to interface directly with the choir's exposed core. That platform there, it's the control node. Rafe groaned, nodding. Go, I'll buy you time. Lumi ran. Soren turned his attention to her, unleashing bursts of sonic interference. Lumi dodged and slid beneath one of the floating instruments, then sprang up onto the control platform. Her fingers flew across the interface, initiating a harmonic override. You think you can undo what I've built? Soren sneered. No, Lumi said, breathless but resolute. I'm not undoing it. I'm realigning it, with her voice. My mother's voice still echoes through this place, and she never stopped singing. She initiated the mnemonic resonance sequence. The entire chamber began to shake. Across the walls, a new tone bloomed, clear, firm, and impossibly beautiful. A memory, reborn. Soren screamed. The discord around him cracked. His armor flickered. His own harmonics began to stutter. Rafe, still bleeding, forced himself up. Let's end this. He reached for one of the shattered resonance towers and struck it like a tuning fork. The note that burst forth matched Lumi's sequence and amplified it. The combined harmonies surged through the chamber like a tidal wave of sound. Soren's voice broke apart, his form unraveling in ripples of feedback. With a final burst of light, the dissonance collapsed. The instruments fell silent. The chamber steadied. The choir breathed. Lumi dropped to her knees, trembling. Is it over? Rafe limped to her side, offering his hand. For now. In the center of the hall, the control node pulsed with soft blue light. The final resonance had settled. The choir had chosen a new equilibrium, and it had chosen them. Chapter 6, A Voice for the Dead. The chamber still vibrated with residual energy from their confrontation with Sorendine. Lumi's hands trembled as she stepped back from the choir's interface, sweat beading on her forehead. The crystalline node containing her mother's echo pulsed quietly in her palm, almost like a heartbeat. Rafe stood nearby, his breath ragged, a shallow cut trailing blood down the side of his face. He said the system was unstable. What happens if it collapses now? Lumi's eyes flicked to the node. We lose everything. My mother, the choir, every voice that ever sang into this place. The chamber pulsed again, low and ominous. Glyphs along the walls flickered erratically. A red hue began to seep into the normally soft-toned light. It's destabilizing, Lumi said. Residual dissonance from Soren's override. Tell me what to do, Rafe said, already moving to her side. Lumi hesitated. I have to reconnect the choir to its harmonic root. The original frequency it was built on, but it's buried deep, buried in memory. You're saying someone has to go in? She nodded. Not just mentally, harmonically, fully attuned. He looked at the shimmering console, then at her. It has to be you. It should be me, she corrected, but the choir recognizes your voice. You stabilized it before. If we go in together, two voices, one memory, we might have a chance. Side-by-side duet with a harmonic ghost realm, Rafe muttered. Fine, let's do it. Lumi placed the crystal in the interface. The chamber shifted, darkened, and then their consciousness fell inward, sound enveloping them. They stood in a vast void of starlight and silence. Memories bloomed around them like petals, scenes from lives long gone, dreams never spoken, regrets turned to echoes. Lumi stepped forward. A fragment of her mother shimmered into form. Dr. Nira errant, standing over a console, humming softly as data flowed past her. She looked up. I knew you'd find me, she whispered. Mom. But the moment shattered as a storm of corrupted tones crashed through the space, dissonance roaring from the shadows. They're back, Rafe growled. The failed echoes. The corrupted fragments of Soren's interference lunged. Formless voices twisted into jagged shapes. Rafe pulled Lumi close. You harmonize. I'll handle the screaming parts. He stepped forward, arms wide. Come on, you son of a chorus. The echoes surged. Rafe's voice burst forth. Not elegant, not refined, but raw, defiant. His tone clashed with theirs, holding ground, creating a buffer. Lumi focused inward, humming a counterpoint. Her voice was soft at first, but soon it blossomed, weaving around Rafe's like a protective spiral. The echoes howled. The memory space cracked. And then a third voice joined them. Nira, she sang, not words but tone, memory. Her voice fused with her daughter's, a harmony both genetic and eternal. The corrupted echoes shrieked and fractured, unable to bear the resonance. One by one they disintegrated into silence. The storm ceased. Lumi turned, tears streaking her face. We can bring you back. Nira smiled, bittersweet. No, child, I am already part of something greater now. But you can carry me forward. All of us. The void around them shifted, memory folding inward, becoming light. Rafe reached for Lumi's hand. You ready? She nodded. Let's finish the song. Together they sang one last chord. The memory space collapsed gently, not in destruction, but in release. They awoke in the choir's heart. The red warning light was gone. The node in the console pulsed in perfect rhythm. A new glyph shimmered into existence, an echo of their shared harmony. Lumi turned to Rafe. She's gone. No, he said, touching the glyph. She's in every note now. Lumi leaned into him, exhausted, heart full. Thank you for singing with me. Rafe kissed her forehead. I'd sing with you anywhere. She looked up. Even off-key? Especially off-key. They laughed softly, arms around each other as the choir hummed in quiet joy. The voices were safe, the harmony was restored, and something new had been born, not just between them and the choir, but between two voices that had finally found each other. Chapter 7, Beyond the Final Note. The air in the chamber had changed. Where once there had been urgency and discord, Now there was calm, an anticipatory stillness that hummed softly in the bones. The crystalline node within the interface pulsed steadily, no longer desperate, no longer erratic. It was as if the choir, after centuries of fragmentation, was finally whole again. Lumi and Rafe stood at the center of the choir's heart, surrounded by the residual glow of harmonics newly aligned. The glyphs that once flickered in confusion now shone in smooth cycles of soft amber and blue. "She's really gone," Lumi said, watching the memory glyph ripple with every beat of the restored core. Rafe stepped beside her. "Not gone, not really. She's part of it now. Part of you." She nodded, wiping her eyes. "And part of you, too." Rafe gave a half smile. "I'm honored. Guess I've been adopted by a memory system." Lumi nudged him gently, managing a tired laugh. Then her expression shifted as a new hum emerged from the walls, one of invitation. "What is that?" the choir responded. The central platform shimmered, and the chamber began to transform. Columns of light rose, forming a spiral of tone around them. The walls folded back, not mechanically but organically, as though the space itself was making room. A doorway opened, but not to the corridor they had entered from. Beyond it was a garden of sound and light, a newly formed space, lush with frequency-woven flora. Vines made of tone, branches pulsing like tuning forks, petals humming softly with harmonic pollen. "It's a cradle," Lumi whispered. "The choir's rebirth." Rafe walked forward, eyes wide. "It grew this?" Lumi nodded slowly. "I think it's a vessel, not just a space to store memory, but to share it, travel with it." A path unfurled before them, leading to the base of a spire that rose from the heart of the garden. From its peak, a quiet chorus rang out, familiar, soft, and impossibly old, and Rafe looked up. That song, it was playing when I first heard the signal. "It's the original harmony," Lumi said, breath-catching, "the very first voice that ever sang into the choir." Together they followed the path. With each step, the ship, the choir itself, responded to their presence. The tones grew warmer, the light more vivid. Above them, constellations spun in perfect rhythm. When they reached the spire's base, a console formed, shaped from crystal and sound, waiting. "Is this what it wants?" Rafe asked. "To leave?" Lumi touched the console. Her voice came out steady. "Not leave, evolve, share. And I think it wants us to guide it." The console glowed beneath her fingers. Lights raced outward like ripples. The chamber around them began to fold inwards, merging the spire, the garden, the choir's core, all into a single form, a vessel. The resonance shaped itself around them, forming sleek walls, aerodynamic arcs of memory-forged alloy, and sound-reactive fiber. The garden compressed into a living core at the center. Instruments formed, not traditional but harmonic, tuned not to buttons and levers but intention and tone. It was a ship, and it was alive. Lumi stepped back, breathless. "It's listening to us." Rafe took her hand. "Then let's give it something worth hearing." The vessel completed its transformation with a final deep chord that pulsed through every surface. The view ahead opened to space, not the stars above the choir's resting place, but new stars, different constellations. They were moving. The ship hummed softly, adjusting its pitch in tune with their heartbeat, their breath. It didn't just respond to them, it sang with them. They stood together on the new bridge, hands still joined. "I don't think there's a destination," Lumi said quietly. "Just a direction," Rafe replied. "Forward." A silence fell, peaceful, not empty. Lumi leaned her head against his shoulder. "Thank you for staying." "Wasn't a hard choice," he said. "I came looking for something. Didn't know what. Turns out it was you." She looked up at him. "You're not just a voice anymore, Rafe. You're a reason." Their lips met in a kiss that was both a coda and an overture. The ship glided forward, propelled by memory, song, and something more powerful than either: connection. Behind them, the void choir pulsed once more, a final note that lingered, soft and proud. Ahead, the stars awaited. Chapter 8, Coda in the Stars. Weeks passed in a rhythm that felt like a dream carried by melody. The choir's vessel, alive with intention and memory, cruised through forgotten star systems and nebulae no longer mapped by modern nav charts. It thrived on harmony, shifting subtly with the moods of its two passengers, altering light and temperature like a song tuning itself to its audience. It wasn't just a ship, it was a companion. Rafe and Lumi adapted slowly. At first, they tested its systems cautiously, unsure how far to trust it. But over time, they discovered the choir was not only safe, it was intuitive. Every shift of tone or breath, every hum or whispered word was absorbed, interpreted, and echoed by the vessel as if it longed to be in constant duet. It became their sanctuary. One morning, if such a concept even existed aboard a memory-woven ship, Lumi sat cross-legged in the observation chamber, where walls melted into starlight. She was humming softly, her eyes closed, letting the vibrations carry through her. Rafe watched from the doorway for a moment before approaching, a cup of synthesized tea in each hand. "That one's new," he said quietly. "It came to me in a dream," she replied, accepting the tea. It felt like she was there. Mom, not as a memory, not trapped, just beside me. Rafe sat next to her, shoulder touching hers. She would be proud of what you saved, of what we've built. Lumi nodded, her smile wistful. "We've done more than preserve something. We've set it free." The choir responded with a gentle shift of color through the walls, pink and gold and lavender tones gliding like silk. Later that evening, the ship passed through the remnants of a shattered world, debris floating like silent bells in an endless graveyard. But even there, the choir sang, a soft lullaby that soothed the ghosts. Lumi rested her head in Rafe's lap as he strummed quiet chords on his guitar. "I never thought I'd find peace in the ruins," she murmured. He looked down, fingers pausing. "Maybe peace isn't about where you are. Maybe it's about who you're with." She turned her head up to meet his gaze. "Is that your way of saying you're not leaving?" "I'm not going anywhere," he said. "You're stuck with me, harmonics and all." She pulled him into a kiss, slow, tender, full of the truth they had built note by note. The ship responded with a chime so faint it could have been a heartbeat. One day they received a signal, not a distress call, not interference, a song, simple, raw, from a nearby colony long thought lost to stellar storms. The melody was fragmented, but unmistakably human. "It's a call," Lumi said. "Someone's still singing." Rafe smiled. "Then let's go meet them." They altered course. As the choir accelerated toward the signal, Lumi stood by the main window, staring out into the stars. Rafe joined her, slipping his hand into hers. For a moment, neither spoke. "You know," she said, "I used to think we were small, just two people lost in a universe that had forgotten how to listen. And now? Now I think we're part of the music." He kissed her temple. "You are the music." Behind them, the choir pulsed with joy. Around them, stars gathered like an audience. And before them, another chapter waited to be written. In melody, in memory, in love. Together, they stepped forward, their voices carried by a vessel that remembered every note. And the universe listened. Epilogue, her song between the stars. There are moments I find myself humming without realizing it. Notes drifting from my lips like mist, fragile and soft. Rafe always smiles when it happens, even when I'm not looking. Especially then. I used to think music was something you created. Now I understand it's something you remember. I remember her voice first, not words, just the rise and fall, the strength and the tenderness. My mother sang when she worked, when she thought no one was listening. But I always was. Now her voice lives in me. After Soren fell, after the choir reshaped itself into the ship we now call Resonance, there was peace, but also purpose. I didn't expect that. I thought saving the choir would feel like an ending. Instead, it became a beginning. We've visited 4 systems in the last 33 days. On Aethelus 9, we helped retune the comm beacons of a derelict research colony. On Marnell's Drift, we discovered another echo, an old prosonar recorder still broadcasting lullabies into space. I wept listening to it. Rafe just held me and said nothing. He didn't have to. There's something about sharing silence with someone who understands. Sometimes, late at night, I return to the choir's original lullaby. I replay it softly, more a meditation than a song. The vessel responds each time, humming in sympathy. I think it dreams with me. Rafe snores. Just a little. He won't admit it, but the choir harmonizes with his breathing. I don't mind. It's like sleeping beside a heartbeat that belongs to both of us. He asked me once, if we reach the end of the galaxy, what do we do then? I told him, we turn around and keep singing, because the universe isn't empty. It's full of unheard songs, lost notes, quiet voices waiting to be remembered. And we're not just explorers, we're archivists of feeling. So I sing to remember, I sing to heal, and I sing because I am no longer alone. Epilogue. His silence beneath the music. Some nights I wake up to the sound of her humming. She doesn't know she does it. It's faint, more like a breath than a melody, but it wraps around the room like a protective net. I don't say anything. I just listen. Because that sound, that's how I know I'm home. I've never been good at words. Not the way Lumi is. She speaks in layers, in light, in math, in memory. Me, I'm more noise than nuance, but she hears me anyway. After Soren, after we rewrote the choir's last stanza, I thought I'd be ready to go back to drifting. Mercenary work, contracts, the silence of my own head. But she made a space for me in the music. Not as a hero, not as a project, just as myself. And damn it, if that doesn't terrify me more than any battlefield ever did. The ship hums when she sleeps. It doesn't hum for me the same way, but I don't mind. I've learned to live between the notes. Sometimes I wander the corridors late, fingers brushing the memory-threaded walls. I talk to the ship, not out loud, not really, just in presence. The same way I talk to her, because you don't need words when someone already hears your silence. I remember when she sang the choir back to life, when her voice wove with her mother's and the stars held still just to listen. I didn't breathe until it was over. I think a part of me fell in love right then, not with the scientist, not with the survivor, but with the soul who would give herself to the song if it meant saving even a sliver of someone she loved. She doesn't know I've been writing music again. Nothing fancy, just strings of chords and half-thought lyrics that never quite rhyme. But when I sit in the observation chamber with my old guitar and she leans her head on my shoulder, it's the closest I've ever come to peace. She once asked, if everything ended tomorrow, what would you miss most? I said, the way your voice cracks on the high notes. She thought I was teasing. But that's the truth of it. It's the imperfection I've fallen for. The in-between, the off-key grace. We'll keep flying, keep listening. Maybe we'll find more echoes. Maybe we won't. But every day I get to sit beside her in this living song of a ship is a day I never thought I'd earn. And somehow, I did. So yeah, let the stars throw what they want at us. We'll sing back, together. Thank you for watching Beyond the Stars. If this journey through memory, music, and the stars moved you, don't let it end here. Subscribe to Beyond the Stars to explore more stories that echo in the void and sing to the soul. Every like, share, and comment helps us reach new listeners and dreamers across the galaxy. Do you believe the universe remembers us? Do you hear the music in the silence? Then join us. Be part of the harmony. Click subscribe, ring the bell, and stay tuned for the next voyage. Because beyond the silence, beyond the ruins, there's always another song waiting to be heard.